talking, so I don't want to ruin anything for them.
Okay.
But I'll mute myself for a little bit just to let people join.
Gotcha. I guess I should do the same.
Sure, you can if you want.
I don't hear my breathing.
But I usually like to give like a little 5-minute window for people to join, because they're all going to get the notification that this is live if they have followed us on Facebook. And you can share it. Like I'm going to reshare it in a second. So I'll just mute myself now.
I'm sharing that YouTube, right?
You can share the YouTube or the Facebook. Either one. Doesn't really matter. It's all the same video.
Okay, cool.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are. Now I'm hearing an echo, of course, because I just share this in a bunch of places. So I am Liz, and I am here with Tim, and I'm going to uncover us in just a second. But it looks like we've got quite a few people joining us today, so that's exciting. There we go.
Hello,
hi.
you.
Good. How are you?
Thank you. I got to make sure I'm looking at my camera and not at my screen. It's important that I do that. Good. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how it's hoodie season, and we're like, oh, I love hoodies. So I'm just thinking about how warm we both look and cozy.
Oh, absolutely. It is way too cold out. It's getting colder.
Right? Perfect for a Friday night. So welcome. I am so excited to celebrate this with you. This is book 3 in a series for you. And you've got 2 series kind of running simultaneously, but this is your middle grade. You do call it middle grade, right?
Middle grade is more for, from what I understand, like up to about 10, maybe. So
8 to 12, I think.
8 to 12. So I'd say that
Upper middle grade.
upper middle school, early high school is probably, YA, I guess, but not like Hunger Games YA. I don't know. Yes. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely geared more toward, when I was writing the series, I was writing the series more for, I was thinking in my mind at the time, and this is kind of backstory, when I was writing the series, a Kahale and Claude Mystery series, which consists of, I guess,
I was going to say, tell us about the books.
Starting with Camp Lenape, which when a girl goes missing and none of the adults can give a straight answer, a childhood game suddenly turns into a real secret mission. So this is book 1 of the series, and I started writing the series with my 8th graders in mind at the time, and they all were like, reading is boring. I can't find a book that I'm going to enjoy reading. And I said, well, challenge accepted. And at the time I did have like a story that I was in my mind, and it turned out to be this one. I was working at a very strange summer camp at the time, and so a story evolved out of that. So that's Camp Lenape, which then turned into the second book in the series, Shadows of Doubt. And so these don't have to be read in order necessarily. Like you can read Shadows of Doubt first, Camp Lenape second if you really want to, but I would say that the character arcs make a little bit more sense. The character development makes a little bit more sense between, as represented by Marcus and Alyssa, who are the main characters, alternating points of view. So in Shadows of Doubt, which came out in May of this year, it's the start of a new school year and a budding romance for Marcus and Alyssa. However, everything's threatened when a sudden lack of funds put all school sports on hold. To make matters worse, Marcus's father, the school's athletic director, is suddenly replaced by the arrogant, washed-up star athlete, Mr. Dunbar. Marcus and Alyssa are forced to play detective once again and get to the bottom of these strange events. Will they be prepared to risk reputation and even their safety to solve this mystery? And what's kind of neat is when little kids, I'd say little kids, like 12-year-olds, as I'm at events and the mom's like, hey, would you like to read it? And they pick it up and they're like, oh, I'm not so sure. And then they read it back and they're like, ooh, this looks good. That's kind of exciting that the blurb captures their attention. Now, Operation Varsity Blues, which I currently just have the picture on my iPad so you all can see that. I wanted to get a physical book by this time, but yeah, I guess COVID hit and we are delayed.
There we go. I was going to say, I'm practicing to cover myself while you read, but I'll put it up now.
You guys can see that better. And so this just came out on Wednesday. It's available, of course, at all book retailers. And definitely put in an order with Liz. Operation Varsity Blues. Gather information, report back to me, and do nothing illegal. With these instructions received under the cover of darkness and a list of names, Marcus and Alyssa launch an investigation into their own classmates. Friendship and investigative skills will be put to the test as these teen detectives take on their most challenging case yet. But when their investigation is suddenly shut down without explanation, the teens have already gathered too many clues to just leave it alone. As powerful forces work against them at every turn they take, will they be able to rise above the challenge? What begins as a quick peek into high school drama quickly turns dark and dangerous for the pair as they pursue answers to the questions someone doesn't want answered. So that's the book that just came out on Wednesday, which I'm going to read a little bit of it today. Oh, and real quickly, I also have a little mini book here, which is a Bizarre Christmas, which is just like a 15-page short story. That is free to anybody who looks it up and says, I want to read that. It's available at all major retailers except for one.
You can say it.
Except for Amazon. Amazon is not carrying it because I wanted it to be a perma-free book. And Amazon does not let that happen ever. You have to run promos on anything like that. But you can get it anywhere you want to get it. Barnes and Nobles, iBooks, wherever you shop.
Let me actually, while you're reading, I'll look it up because I think I might have a link to it. We have a thing that we use that I might be able to share.
Yeah, are you able to get ebooks too?
Yeah, so we use a company that has many names. It's called a few different things, but I think the main company is called Hummingbird, and then they have a thing called Paper Trail that's also called My Must Reads. It's a little bit confusing, but it has all of them. So I will look it up.
Yeah, okay. So shall I read from...
But yeah, so really quick, I would just say for everyone who's just joining us, I am Liz from Capricorn Books, and I'm joined here by Tim. I didn't really say that at the beginning. I was just thinking about how warm and cozy we were. This is author Timothy Baldwin. I just call you Tim. I realize that.
Well, that's fine.
Here is Tim, so.
Perfect, yes. Tim is fine.
In fact, go back and forth. So I will let you read. And so you're not reading from the Christmas one. You are reading from the newest book, Operation Varsity Blues.
This is correct, yes.
Okay. I will let you take it away, and I will cover myself and mute myself for the time being.
Perfect. I actually have to... Oh, I already have it open. So like I was saying, I don't have a physical copy of the book yet, but no need to fear. We can always get it electronically. And those will be hopefully in January for me. So anyway, chapter 1, and once again, just to clarify as before I read, Operation Varsity Blues, just like the other books in the series that I have here, they're all written from alternating point of views. So I'll read chapter 1, and then if we're feeling fun about it, I can read chapter 2 as well. So chapter 1, Marcus. We sat in Alyssa's car in the far corner of a parking lot belonging to a closed-down shopping plaza outside of town. Off the beaten path and late at night, we doubted anyone would check on us. A light snow and rain mixture began to fall, which caused a sprinkle in the wintry mix. A single street lamp casted an eerie glow. From the back seat, Janice shivered. Can you turn the car back on, she asked. It's cold. Here, Nate said as he pulled her closer to him. Is this better? Not really, Janice mumbled, but I'll take what I can get until Liz cranks up the heat. Okay, Alyssa huffed. I'll turn the car on. Again. She keyed the ignition and looked to me while she shifted in the driver's seat. Mark, you know I love you, but I'm beginning to think this new contact is playing you. He said he'll be here, I said. I pulled out the envelope I'd found in my school locker. Let's wait another 15 minutes and then we'll go. I'm all for this too, said Janice as she leaned forward between Alyssa and me. But how do you know our new client is a he? That's no biggie, said Nate as he joined the conversation. Wait, I see lights ahead. As the rain continued to fall, a car pulled into the parking lot. Its headlights blinked twice. That was the signal. My heart raced. Guys, I cheered. We're doing this. As the car approached, it looked strangely familiar. I don't want to be a buzzkill, Nate said. But isn't that your dad's car? Sure looks like it, Janice replied. Meanwhile, Alyssa nodded. It is, she said. I groaned as my family's familiar old station wagon pulled up next to us. Dad left the engine running as he climbed out the car. Dressed in a long, dark trench coat and a black fedora, he stood there with arms crossed. What's up with your dad's get-up? Alyssa asked as she opened the door. I think it's pretty cool, Nate said. The four of us exchanged looks, and I sighed. Guess we better see what he wants, I said. I slammed my door shut and trudged over to Dad. Why are you here? The others joined me and expressed a similar sentiment. Crossing his arms, Dad tissed. Now, is that any way to treat a new client? He asked. No way, Nate and Janice exclaimed in unison. He's joking, said Alyssa as she stepped to me. Mark, please tell me he's joking. I don't think he is, I said regretfully as I looked to Dad. I clicked my teeth. Before my friends and I got here, we hung at my house. And then we went to Slices on the avenue. Dad had time to call us for get together then, so I couldn't figure out why he waited until now. Dad's air of mystery seemed to diminish as he looked from the others to me. He stammered, here's the thing. I didn't want to get your mother involved, and this is a sensitive subject. Can we maybe talk in your car, Mr. Kahale? Asked Alyssa. We're still a little cold out here, and we're getting wet. Dad climbed to the front seat of the station wagon. Nate and Janice climbed into the back. At the passenger side, Alyssa and I hesitated. Do you want to sit in the front, I asked. No, I'll take the back, Alyssa said as she grinned. He is your contact, after all. She climbed to the back seat while I took the front. As I closed the door, I welcomed the warmth of the car. Dad took off his fedora and stretched. It's a school night, so I'll try to make this quick, he said. From an inside pocket of his trench coat, he pulled out a folded sheet of paper and handed it to me. There's been an unusually high number of our students getting accepted into prestigious schools, despite the school's extremely low acceptance rates. I unfolded the slip of paper and glanced at a list of names with corresponding GPAs. I passed the paper to Alyssa. Normally I would celebrate, Dad continued, but most of the students are all-around good kids, but they don't exactly shine academically or demonstrate the qualities top schools look for in exceptional candidates for enrollment. Oh, I know some of these kids, said Nate as he leaned forward. Why not go to Principal Moss with this information? Dad sighed. In our last faculty meeting, he held them up as prime examples of why our staff should continue to push every single one of our students. I did some more digging and discovered a similar trend in years past. 14% of our students are getting into prestigious schools. That's twice as high as the national average. So why us, Janice asked. Couldn't you talk to the superintendent? I could, but given the recent financial scandal, I get it, Alyssa cut him off. Some of the kids still whisper among themselves about your involvement. And what she's referencing there, just to clarify, is something that happened in this book. So that's what you'll find in this story is little references here and there, but not many. Anyway, I'll continue. I get it, Alyssa cut him off. Some of the kids still whisper among themselves about your involvement. Which is why I bring the case to you, Dad said. You know your classmates. Pick a handful off this list I give you that might be willing to talk. Or those we can get to slip up, I chimed in. Dad glared at me. This isn't something to joke about, son. He shifted his gaze to the back seat. I wouldn't ask if I had another option. This feels borderline illegal, said Alyssa as she passed a list to Janice. Right, agreed Dad. He cleared his throat. Which is why I emphasize you don't do anything illegal. You're gathering information, nothing more. Burn the list once you've picked a handful of classmates. Whatever you find, bring to me. Got it, boss, Nate said. Thanks, Dad, I added. Yeah, thanks for bringing this to us, Alyssa said. She paused. This means a lot. Dad adjusted his seat. If you have any doubt about this, you're under no obligation to follow through, okay? Now get back home before 10 o'clock. It's a school night. We returned to Alyssa's warm car as Dad's station wagon drove off. In the back seat, Janice waved around the slip of paper. This is so exciting, you guys, she cheered. We got a case, and I think I know who each of us should start with. While Janice and Nate discussed the list, I glanced at Alyssa. She remained silent. I had a feeling she wanted out, which would leave Nate, Janice, and me to do this on our own. So that's chapter 1. Is Liz there? Okay,
yes,
awesome.
I'm here.
I was going to keep reading, but I wanted to check and see.
It's okay. You can if you want. I'm not going to stop you. Like, I'm like, yeah.
Let me
Now
keep reading. Let me go into chapter 2, then you'll get a feel of how I kind of create the character of Alyssa. So that was Marcus's point of view. I'll continue into chapter 2.
Oh, I love it. I'm already excited because I love when authors do that. I love alternate points of view in chapters.
And I like, and as I was writing the story, there was a few times where I was like, wait, I'm on Alyssa's point of view, not Marcus's. I need to change what I'm saying a little bit. So chapter 2, Alyssa.
All right.
As I tried to review my notes, so again, this is Alyssa. As I tried to review my notes for the upcoming AP statistics test on Monday, the after-school lunch chatter in the classroom distracted me, and my mind cluttered with thoughts about this case. I glanced to my classmate and teammate Mel's empty seat. She played on the soccer team with me as a senior. Though her name wasn't on the list Mr. Kahale gave to us, I knew she was tight with a few of the girls, and I wanted to ask her some questions. Flustered, Mel rushed into the classroom, dropped her books on her desk, and sat. And nearly 6 feet tall, she towered over all the girls and most of the boys. She turned to me and grinned. "You're not going to believe this," she exclaimed. "What's that?" I asked. She eagerly handed me an envelope. Immediately, I recognized the crest of Pennamore College, dual roaring lines emblazoned in gold, matching lettering and a red background. "See that list?" Mel said. "I got into my dream school." "Oh," I stated. Mel laughed. "Don't look so surprised." I shrugged in a lame attempt to laugh it off. "I'm not surprised, Mel. This is incredible." "I know, right? Even though they even offered me an incredible scholarship program." She leaned toward me. "Liz, you should go apply next year. Between your grades and soccer, I bet you'll get in. They have a great law program. Plus, for the sports scholarship, you really should go out for lacrosse this year. With 3 of us from the same team, we'd be unstoppable." "Who's the third?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Abby, of course. Our team was so lost without her last year." Because of her failing 12th grade, I wanted to say. Instead, I grinned. "That'll be awesome. Maybe you, me, and Abby could practice this weekend." Mel slid her acceptance letter away. Sure, we could do that, but it'll have to be way early." "Good afternoon, class," Miss Barry, our statistics teacher, called out as she entered from the back of the room and brought Mel's explanation to a halt. "If you haven't done so, take out your homework." Our paper shuffled as Miss Barry pulled up her presentation for the day. She reminded us of our big test on Monday. I, on the other hand, wondered what else Mel and Abby had planned for Saturday. Then I recalled 2 months ago after we, Marcus, Janice, Nate, and I solved the case surrounding the missing school funds. Janice had handed me her phone. On one of her many social media apps, I saw Abby Jenkins posing while wearing a Pennamore College t-shirt. Her caption read, "They said I couldn't do it. I don't even like school. Hi, haters. Look where I'm going." Janice and Nate were convinced we had a potential case. Marcus and I wondered how Abby could have gotten into an exclusive school like Pennamore, but we didn't have a legit reason to pry. Not if we wanted to keep that what little popularity we managed to earn. Then Mr. Cahill brought us the list last night. Abby was on the list. What previous doubts I had about getting involved in this case vanished. With Mel's acceptance into the same school, I needed to figure out a way to get close to Abby. I thought Mel could help and be the person to find out more about Abby. If Janice joined the lacrosse team with me, that would help too. "Alyssa," Miss Barry called, which pulled me from my thoughts. "Please read question 4. Okay, I said in a daze. I glanced at my paper and read aloud. "You run an office that employs 23 people. What is the probability that 2 of your employees have the same birthday? For the purposes of this problem, ignore February 29th. I paused. "Oh, can you get back to me?" "I know the answer. I just need a minute." "Take all the time you need," Miss Barry said. "Let's go on to the next problem as Miss Claude gathers her thoughts." I ignored the giggles and whispers because now the thoughts of Pennamore College and Abby Jenkins' apparent acceptance returned. Maybe with Abby being a second-year senior, the college somehow accepted her on probation, but that seemed doubtful. Her grades sucked. Plus, the odds of getting into a school like Pennamore had to be extremely low, even lower for students from the same high school. A nudge at my shoulder jolted me back to AP statistics. 50%, I shouted. "That's it." Glancing around, I realized the room was silent. Everyone stared at me, including Miss Barry. She glared for a moment before she grinned. "Very good, Miss Claude," she replied. "Do you care to explain?" "I'd rather not. I only had room for one statistical problem." Miss Barry frowned for a moment. While she proceeded with an explanation, a new angle for our investigation into Abby Jenkins began to form in my mind. The bell rang. "Drat!" Miss Barry exclaimed. "All right, class, you've got 2 nights to study your—" The shuffling of feet and scraping of chairs interrupted Miss Barry's farewell. In the hallway, I caught up with Mel. "Hey, can Janice come with us this weekend?" I asked her. "I didn't know Janice was into sports," Mel said. We could definitely use another midi, and you're a shoo-in for the attack." "That's awesome. Do you think Saturday morning at 10 would be cool?" Mel's face flushed. "I'll have to check with Abs. You know. She might want to take the day to get ready for Saturday's party." "Right, I almost forgot," I lied. I was going to bring Marcus. Mel cocked her head. Okay, just that Abby's boyfriend Derek isn't even coming. Oh, I paused as I tried to play off Mel's dismissal. I'll have to reread the invite. I didn't think this was a girl-only party. Mel fumbled with her books. Don't sweat it. Boys are allowed. I need to get to class, so I'll let you know about getting together to practice. Even if we can't, I'm sure you and Janice will pick up the game fast. Okay, see ya. She turned and disappeared into a group of students. At the end of the soccer season, she bugged me about playing lacrosse in the spring. Girl, you are so out of it today, Janice squealed as she walked up to me. You don't know the half of it, I said as I turned to her. With a grin, I changed my tone. How about we crash Abby's party this Saturday? Janice's eyes lit up. I thought you'd never ask. I heard some chatter about it. It sounds super exclusive. So if we do get in, we'll have to stay under the radar. I'm going to keep going to finish off so you all can hear about the party. And then I'm going to conclude because I don't want to read the whole thing.
Fair enough.
Though I am reading going, this is actually a very fun book to read aloud. And I can't wait to hire somebody to actually do the audiobook.
Yes. Or you do it. You got a new fancy mic, it looks like.
Yeah. The thing though is, I guess it sounds good. I don't know. Yep. I don't hear it. But the thing is that I don't want to do male and female. So maybe I'll do male voice and I'll get somebody else to do female. I don't know. The party, chapter 3, or chapter 2 still. This is later. That evening, we met at Marcus's house. Are you sure you kids don't want any snacks, Mrs. K? Oh, this is not that evening. This is just ignore what I just said. Just listen and enjoy the story. That evening, we met at Marcus's house. Are you sure you kids don't want any snacks, Mrs. Cahill asked. You four look like you've got a lot of studying to do, said Mr. Cahill. We do, Marcus answered. If we're not done in an hour, I'll come down and bring something up for my friends. Thanks, Mrs. Cahill, I said. Janice and Nate thanked Mrs. Cahill too, and the four of us headed upstairs. With one earbud in her ear, Marcus's 6th grade little sister Bree met us by her door. Hey, Liz, she said. Oh, you're all here. Do you have a case? Can I help? I don't know, I said as I teased Bree. You have to ask Marcus. I looked to Marcus and he blushed. No, Bree, you can't help, Marcus blurted. We aren't on a case. We're doing a school project, Nate lied. You are all terrible liars, said Bree as she rolled her eyes. Just keep it down because I have to study. She popped in her earbud and slammed her door shut. Real smooth, boys, Janice said. What? Marcus asked. I couldn't find a more covert place to meet. So my parents' house is what we got. After closing the door, we all took a seat. I filled the boys in on my theory of the statistical impossibility of 2 people from a small town like ours getting to a school like Pennamore. So I'm thinking you 2 could do some research into that, I said. Maybe check with Miss Calhoun, our guidance counselor. That's a great idea, Marcus said. He turned to Nate. You and I could come up with a list of leading questions, right? Nate nodded and exchanged a look with Janice. He opened his mouth to speak, but hesitated. Although they only remained quiet for a moment, I sensed something was up with Nate and Janice. Am I missing something, Marcus asked? I know it's not all glamorous, but we need to keep things going. Oh, I'm cool with that, Nate said. Well, speaking of glamorous, Abby's got a party this weekend, I said. I think Mel can get us in. Janice and I are supposed to meet with them Saturday morning. Since when? Janice asked. I turned to Janice. I may have nominated you for lacrosse this season, and we'll need a working plan for getting into the party. Definitely, Nate said. Why are we attending? We need to get close to our subjects, Marcus replied. I'm sure a handful of people from the list will be at the party. I nodded. Yeah, and I've seen some of them hang with Abby. Others will probably be there too. Janice added, and clues. I'm sure we could go through a few drawers in the house. Just remember, I said, we need to keep this clean and legal. Later, we'd work out a line of questioning for Miss Calhoun and some scenarios for getting ourselves into Abby's party. I wondered whether there was a way to legally acquire clues. I doubted anything would be so obvious, like a falsified grade report, especially since none of us had ever been to Abby's house, nor knew exactly what we were looking for. We would have to figure it out when we got there. I'm going to stop there.
I feel like you just want to keep reading. You would just keep going if I let you.
What?
Yeah, it's good if you like to read your own book.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to read. But I can keep reading. I don't see the chat or comments, I don't think. So
That's okay. So I left comments that show the link to your Indies United for a Bizarre Christmas, just so people have that.
Oh, sweet.
Heather left you some hearts. Heather Carson left you some hearts. And Sean Duffy said, "Go Tim."
Yay, go Tim.
So those are the only comments.
I guess I do see that a little bit. I can keep reading, or I can talk about something else.
You don't have to. We can chat now. Let people buy the book.
Yeah, let people buy the book.
That definitely got me excited, and I know my kiddo really still loves the first book. She has been reading that still, but she definitely loves that. She is 9, because I know we talked about the age, so I know it's a little bit old for her, but she reads mature things, so it's not.
And I'd say that probably Camp Lenape, for those just joining, Camp Lenape is the first book in the series. Boom. I tell people that anyway, Camp Lenape probably is the one that I was like, I definitely intended that one for like older 8th grade. And I will say that the media center specialist at the school I was at, she purchased some copies for the media center and actually got it approved for the school system. And because I used the word, I think I used the word prick. Can I say that on air?
Yeah. I don't have to, I guess.
But because I used the word prick in it, she was like, it should be for 8th grade and up. I don't know how that works. I was like, okay. I didn't even think about it. In fact, when she said it, I was like, did I use that word? I don't remember. And I don't think of it as a bad word, so to speak, but oh well.
I know what you mean. There's other, growing up, we could not say crap or sucks.
Yeah. And as you heard,
but now,
that, yeah. That's funny how that is language. I guess, I mean, it's more, it goes along the play of like what's appropriate. What I kind of do with the language in the books. I mean, I don't like use, the really no cuss words that we tell our students in school and at home. Don't say that, those 4-letter words. The dialogue, hopefully, as you were listening, hopefully it sounds like the way teenagers actually speak. And that's what I'm going for. I like to say that I have a lot of research at hand since I'm around them all the time.
That's what I was going to say. Talk about that. I mean, that's your background. So
yeah, absolutely. So I've been teaching for 14 years, and after about 7 years or so, was it 7? No, actually, probably about 10 years in is when I started writing. Well, I started writing about 7 years in, but then I published Camp Lenape about 10 years. No, longer than that. I don't know. It's all about
this year, time doesn't exist.
Time does not exist this year. But it exists a lot for writers who have the tenacity to actually sit down and write and not waste their time watching Netflix.
Well, I mean, you're judging me.
Well, I'm calling the kettle black right now because I do the same thing.
But you've been so productive. I mean, you have almost 4 books out.
So I do actually have 4 books out. Because the short story, the 4th book. Oh,
yeah, I'm going to count the short story. I didn't mention the 4th one. So Shadows of Doubt came out in May. You have this one. You have the short story, and you also have this one. I'm sorry, this one twice, but so congrats.
This is just so Indies United Publishing House, the publishing house I'm with, took what we do. What I'm going to say we because it's a co-op, and so I'm an author there, so we do this. It's kind of neat to be part of like a group of people who are like, when you think like indie bookstores, indie publishing houses, indie coffee houses, you name it. It's kind of neat to be with a small publishing house.
Yeah.
Because you really become like a part of the family. And I mentioned about reading books. So I'm actually now like what they actually do now. So that's a lady who started Indies United Publishing House, and basically and what ends up happening when it comes to publishing submissions and so forth, she will send out stories for us to review that she feels are most appropriate for the genre we read and write. And so I've been able to read a couple this year. I got another one coming to me. So it's kind of neat to see it as like the starting point and think, yeah. So I was reading one the other day that she just kind of like a disclaimer that was like, this is a new author. And this author said it's a first draft. So I didn't know anything about the person. I didn't know if they were male, female. I didn't know if they were, 85, 45, or 25. I knew nothing about them. Just got the title of the book, and I just sat down and started reading it. And I was getting into the story, but then, and I really wanted to finish reading the whole thing, but I was just like, I can't read past chapter 3. I'm just so stuck. And not because I wasn't getting into the story, because I was. The thing that I kept thinking back was like, I just felt like it was like I was reading the story and the story was existing in like a white walled room because I didn't have like a sense of setting. If that makes any sense. Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
And so think of it in terms of like, if you were to sit down and read a Harry Potter book for the first time, and it was starting out at some vague school with special kids, and in those with special abilities, and they coexisted side by side with people without special abilities. And everyone knew that, and they were just dropping terminology like you knew what it meant. And so that's kind of how I was feeling with them. Like I'm feeling like there's all this terminology being dropped and so forth, and it was like I was missing the setting. And so it goes back to that idea. We've talked about this about world building, I think, or setting specifically, and how difficult it is sometimes to get a sense of place and the story if you don't have a clear setting described.
Yes, we did talk about this, and I'll just say for anyone who is watching this or watches it back later, we do have a YouTube channel, and our Drinks with Authors should all be on there. So you can check out the Capricus Books YouTube. And Timothy was part of one of our, so in the spring of this year, we kind of did this thing on Friday nights where we all got together for sometimes it went for different amounts of time, but we all just kind of got on and chatted with a few different authors. And we tried to do themes, and in some of them we were talking about settings and world building and things like that. And that's what Tim's referring to. But yeah, it's interesting because I just read a book by a pretty well-known science fiction author. I'm going to leave it very vague, but it's a well-known science fiction author who wrote a Christmas novel. And I actually blasted it in other videos, but I'll say here, it's a Christmas novel, but you're right. You just made me realize the only thing that they really use is a lot of scientific terminology, because it's two scientists who are going to this town to study something scientifically. And there's no other real description in the rest of the book at all. There's no world. I mean, we know it's a little tiny town, but I don't know what the people look like. I don't know. It's very weird to me because, and it almost seemed abridged. So I was reading it as an audiobook. And when I read audiobooks, I always make sure I get the unabridged version, because abridged drives me crazy, because it just feels like they take out chunks just to make it shorter, which makes it more listenable for people. And this is what I thought. And I checked, and it was not. And I'm like, this is how it was written. And there's so much missing. I'm like, I don't feel like, especially in Christmas stories like that, I think is a very specific thing, because you want that Christmas is such a important feeling, really. That's the idea to me of like Santa Claus and stuff like that. It's much more of a feeling. And if you can't get that in a Christmas story, I don't need Hallmark. I don't need a ton of love and all that. But I still want to feel like a chill in the air because somebody puts a sweater on, something like that.
Right.
I got no little details of that, and it drove me nuts.
So speaking of that, if you don't mind,
Sure.
A Bizarre Christmas, which is the
Yes.
short story. Since we're talking about Christmas stories. So I wrote this because I was like, I need something for the magazine, for the publishing house for December. And I was like, I basically had a word limit. And I was like, yeah, I can probably do this in 1,500 words. No, I can't write anything in 1,500 words. It's not possible. Unless it's, I don't know. I mean, I could. It's just very hard to write some, especially with characters like these, like Alyssa and Marcus, who I already know so much about. And then knowing that for some people, this will be the first story that they read by me. Now, this one you can read as a standalone, and then if you love it, you can like get the rest.
And that's such a common thing with Christmas, which for anyone checking this out, the link to read this is in the comments. You can find a link in the comments. I've linked 2 resources for this.
So it's actually like book 2.5 because so it becomes between. So we mentioned earlier about, and for those joining, can these books be read out of order? And that's 100% absolutely they can be. Though to get the full experience of Marcus and Alyssa and how they grow and develop, start with Camp Lenape. Or if you want to skip Camp Lenape because you're like, I'm not feeling a camp story, you can go to Shadows of Doubt. It'll still make sense. So A Bizarre Christmas comes between Shadows of Doubt and Operation Varsity Blues. Just to kind of give backstory. So Chapter 1. Garland and lights hung from the gymnasium walls, and the smell of nutmeg and cinnamon filled the air. The static old speakers churned out Christmas music while vendors packed their wares, crafts, treats, and other homemade items. Meanwhile, lingering shoppers, their arms already loaded with goods, seemed to pester vendors for that final sale of the night. My mom was one such vendor. As with the year past, she wasted no time to pack up. Marcus, help me with this, Mom said as she knelt behind one of many tables lining the school gymnasium. Sure, I said, kneeling opposite her to assist with a crate. On the count of 3, Mom and I grunted as we lifted and placed the crate on the table. I thought you'd sell out of scrapbook material, I said. It looks like you're coming home with twice as much, Mom scowled. It's actually half, she added a wink. There might be something in there for you and Bree. Thanks, Mom, I said. I'm going to see if any of the other vendors need help. There was still so much to do to close out the annual Christmas bazaar. As the son of the longest-running PTSA president, the son of the assistant principal, everyone came to expect that I'd be around to help out at every event. I didn't mind helping out, especially since I was in good company, who I spotted coming toward us. My girlfriend, Alyssa, carried a stack of cardboard boxes as she trailed a few paces behind her mother, Mrs. Claude. I waved. Hey, can I give you a hand? Alyssa grinned. You bet. Here. She handed me the entire stack, which I fumbled as I turned, letting several flattened boxes slide off the top of the stack and onto the table. Geez, these are heavy, I said. She placed a hand on her hip. Glad you finally admitted it. I'm stronger. On the other side of the table, Mom and Mrs. Claude laughed. Before I could give a comeback, shouting from the other side of the gymnasium drew my attention. A group of patrons circled around the silent auction table, creating a din that echoed throughout the gymnasium. Other vendors, parents and their kids, stopped their packing to have a look. Oh dear, Mom said. We should go put out that fire. Mom and Mrs. Claude jogged over to the crowd. Alyssa and I followed close behind. As we drew near, a middle-aged man dressed in a tweed jacket and a Santa hat stood on a chair. If you would please all take a moment, he said. I'm sure we can sort this out. Hey, a stout, balding man roared. What kind of place are you running here? Mom stepped in. Mr. Robinson, please step down, and you, sir. Johnson Hill, the stout, balding man said, stepping close to Mom. She stepped back, her eyes darting around. Mrs. Claude stepped in. You do well to back up, Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill pointed at Mr. Robinson. This guy here in the tweet says the grand prize TV I won in the silent auction is missing. Oops. Mr. Robinson stepped off the chair. Easy now. I returned only moments ago. When I'd left, it was here. I'm sure it was just misplaced. Just like last year, someone said. Last year, a booming voice spoke up. We turned to see a bearded man in a football jersey. Are you talking about the stereo system that went missing? No, that was the year before, another person corrected. Others chimed in, arguing about what went missing when. What are they all talking about, Mr. Hill said. He spun. Mr. Robinson, you. Mr. Robinson. Mr. Hill's voice trailed off. The chair once occupied by Mr. Robinson was empty. Mr. Hill pulled out a handkerchief and wiped his brow. I need to speak to whoever's in charge. Who would that be? Mom stepped up to Mr. Hill. That'll be me. I'm sure we can. You better hope you do, because, sir, Mom said, why don't you step over here with us while the others finish picking up their items? I glanced at Alyssa. Where did Mr. Robinson go? Alyssa shrugged. Every time I stopped by this table, he had a mouthful of roasted walnuts. Maybe it caught up to him. We laughed. Mrs. Claude marched over to us. Alyssa Amani Claude, I don't know what you think is so funny. There's a TV missing. She glared at me. And Marcus, your mother is trying to placate an angry patron. Sorry, Alyssa and I said. Mrs. Claude held up a hand. Marcus, we need you to go find your father. After that, we need you both to look for the TV. On it, Alyssa said. Come on, Marcus. Once in the hallway, Mrs. Alyssa pulled me off to the side. You realize what will happen if that TV isn't recovered. I nodded. Another lost item, and we won't have a bazaar next year, which means fewer funds in the booster clubs, Alyssa said. Once we find your father, we're going to find that TV and whoever took it. I propose we start with Mr. Robinson, I said. He dipped out a little too quick. Alyssa grinned. Sounds like a plan. I'll stop there. So you get this sense of, so do I establish Christmas?
Yes, I loved it right at the beginning, like just way better than this other author. The bustling people, just right there, just makes me feel warm and cozy, but also intrigued about the stolen item. Because of course, that's a very Christmas thing to happen.
Right, and I went to so many of those growing up that my mom was never the president of the PTSA, but she was definitely involved, and my mom likes crafty things, and so. I would say that when I pictured this story and the mother, and I was picturing my mother, who also does scrapbooking, stuff like that. But she's never like sold stuff at a craft fair. My sister does. My sister sells stuff at craft fairs. She sells pottery at craft fairs, and of course, recently I've been at a handful of Christmas bazaars selling my books and getting people to be like, buy these books. They make great gifts.
Yes.
Or people are like, I don't read. I'm like, well, buy it for somebody else who does.
Here's a great way to start too.
Like, I just want to say, when people are like, I don't read, I'm just like, that's not true. You read. Right? You just don't realize it. Yeah. And trust me, you just haven't found the right thing that you appreciate reading. And you don't have to sit down and read my book, but it's not true that you don't read. You're just not interested in reading my books, and that's fine. So anyway, maybe somebody else would be. So exactly. Yeah, that's what I have. What else were we gonna? Yeah. So I had some of the questions that I had sent you ahead of time were things like, number one, did you realize that you were compared to Harlan Coben? Yeah. And I was not. In fact, I have no idea who that is until I didn't know until I saw his books today. Okay, fair enough. He's a well-known mystery author. I believe he writes more in like the FBI type genre. I would put him in like a military type mystery section. But yeah, I know his name from his other books. Yeah, now I feel like I should probably read some of his books, or at least one of them, just to get a feel for it. And that's actually, I saw the covers. I was like, I feel like and I saw his as like a boy and a girl. And I feel like that sort of works. That works really well. And depending on how you do it, I think like when you do that though, I mean, you have to be very in tune to, I don't want to say teen speak, so to speak, but you have to really be in tune to, who your characters are and what they're like. And because I've read some YA that featured teenagers, and there was a whole variety of, I'd say, YA that came out like around 10 years ago, where the teenagers just didn't feel like teenagers. They felt more like adults. And there's this new, I call it a new genre, but that's not probably right, but a new classification of new adult, which new adult is these YA books that actually feature characters who are 18 and older. Yeah. So they're books that are 18 and older, but they're usually fairly steamy. They have a little bit more adult-ish stuff. So that's this new age category, but it's still technically written for young adults, I guess. But this new age category is, I guess, also so that
adults don't have to feel guilty about reading YA, because I feel like there was a lot of shaming because there was a lot of adults who really enjoyed YA stuff, but now they have this stuff that if we classify it YA, maybe a lot of people will want it, but it's also considered steamy. So,
yeah. And so as somebody who has, so one of my degrees is in creative writing and literature, and I took the YA course, in the YA Lit course. And then, we're studying it for writing quality. And I don't think it's something that adults should be ashamed of. Now, if an adult, I mean, you shouldn't be ashamed of anything you read, but I think that, like, if you have a real love and passion for, I don't know, for the Magic Treehouse, have at it. That's just the first thing that came to mind. That's clearly for like a third grader or younger, and I'm not sure, but if that's something you love, that's great. But I think like the idea of being ashamed because it's I guess cognitively beneath you. I think hopefully for those of you who heard me reading mine, I mean, I don't write below a reading level. I don't write although I mean, I wouldn't say my language is complex. It's readable. And a lot of YA books actually have very complex plots and very complex characters. They're not just flat characters, and the language they use is very rich. It's very rich. And anyway, besides,
and that's how I feel. That's, I'm just, you should never be ashamed of anything. And I'm a huge advocate for graphic novels and comics even. I mean, all of those, wherever you can read. And it's interesting, there's also this whole layer of magazines that people forget. And you were just talking about, it's not true that you don't read. You probably read the newspaper, sir. Like, just in general, like, there's things that you read. It's just, you don't have to be ashamed. Maybe you only read nonfiction. So again, maybe you only read the news. It might not, be the truth all the time, but who knows? You're still reading something. And
right.
So comics, graphic novels, even again, there's this, stigma / shame for romance books and what they can be. But that's, again, all of these things are books or words that you're reading, and you're growing yourself. And I think that is very important to read anything. So someone was saying that they, I can't remember where I read this, but I've started doing it myself when people come in and ask me, what should my young adult, excuse me, you're talking too much. I haven't talked all day. I've been driving. So what should my, middle schooler, high schooler, my high schooler doesn't like to read. They won't read anything. What can I, what book do you recommend? I'm like, well, what do they like in the rest of their life? If they play basketball, get them a Sports Illustrated subscription. Right. Like, you have to think about what their other interests are and then tie it in. You can't just assume that they're going to not like a book. I mean, that might be true, but there's other things to get them started reading.
No doubt. And one of the things too, and I'm going to feel like I'm, taking a stab at my own profession, but as a teacher, but I feel like school kind of kills the love for reading. I mean, think about, there's a lot of text out there that are wonderful books. Mark Twain is a wonderful writer, and I personally enjoy Mark Twain in pieces. Like, it's very hard to sit down and read an entire Mark Twain story. Likewise, I found Moby Dick to be mostly engaging, except for when it, went off on a weird tangent where he gave us a whole scientific history of like whales. And I said, where's the story? But I get to the point, the reason to get to the point, like the Metamorphoses by Franz Kafka. I totally was like supposed to read that with my 10th graders. I was like, not into this story. And one of the kids was like, did you read that? I said, let me just tell you about the story. This dude turns into a beetle, a giant beetle. And there's like 40 pages of him trying to get up and maneuver around his room that is locked. Meanwhile, his family's all pounding on the door. His boss is coming in, pounding the door, and then when he finally opens the door, they beat his big beetle self senselessly, and there's no explanation why he's just turned into a beetle. He just did. And so the kid was like, so what you're saying, it was like it was a major mind trip, and we probably wouldn't enjoy reading that story. I'm like, pretty much. I mean, like,
There's
what are
other ways too. There's other books that are more
right? It just like, who thought, somebody sat down and thought, what would be a book that 15-year-olds would love reading? They would love reading the Metamorphosis. Like, I don't think they would. No, I mean, whereas on the other hand, they sometimes do get it right, and they throw out The Lord of the Flies, and this is definitely a YA story. And is there some stuff in there that's a little weird and I wouldn't say unrelatable to today's teens, but at the same time, the character, they do get it. They can get into the story. The Metamorphosis? No, I don't think so.
Yes, and that you made me think of 2 points. One, I am going to send you. This is a somewhat tangent, but I am going to send you. I will say, early on in my relationship with my husband, he went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he was there with work, and someone was talking about The Outsiders. And have you read The Outsiders?
I get asked this, like, I swear, like,
I'm sorry.
once every 2 months, and I'm like, always like, I have the book on my shelf. I've never read it.
So it's so funny because I had to read it in school, and my husband is the same age as me. And I was very like, how did you not have to read this in school? Like, we all had to read it. And I stay golden pony boy. I mean, but I have to say, I love pop culture. So when there's a line like that's used a lot, I need to understand where it's from and its context and things like that. And so that's the other reason, like, I can't remember a lot of that book, but I know I had to read it. And so I teased my husband for a little bit, and that he had no idea what they were talking about when he was at this school. He's like, he had no idea about what The Outsiders was. So he finally read it this year. And then I found this really great TikTok. So I've been falling down this hole of TikToks, but kind of on the tangent of graphic novels and reading, someone asked for The Outsiders to be turned into a graphic novel. And S.E. Hinton, the author of The Outsiders, said no, because graphic novels are not, they're basically just, there's no reading involved, and you just flip the pages. And she was just very poo-pooing graphic novels. And this person on TikTok like laid into her, and it was great. And she's like, can we just stop pretending The Outsiders is a good book? And I'm like, it's really not very relevant. And it's funny because it was written by a 16-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. I always forget that because I've never read it myself.
Exactly. So, and it's about these boys. So, I mean, maybe we have lost some perspective there, and I'm glad it's not necessarily required in school anymore. I mean, you have it on your shelf because you're an English teacher. So,
yeah, and I feel like it's something that I should have read, but I just never did. I mean, I just feel like there's some stories that just don't withstand the test of time.
And yeah, absolutely.
And like, I think that, even like, so one of the books that we have as an option is like Sherman Alexi's The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. I think it's still somewhat relevant. I think it's still relevant today, that whole idea of like not fitting in and being, not quite this particular culture or not quite this ethnicity somewhere. And I think it still fits, and the struggles there. In 20 years, is it going to still fit? I'm not so sure about that. Likewise, and I'm not going to pretend like my stories are going to be, it would be awesome if they're still read 20 years from now, but I tried to write them in such a way that they would be somewhat timeless.
So, and here's what I'll say, what's making a huge comeback, and this is to give you hope.
Yeah.
Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even though I feel like the originals are a little dated, they're being refreshed. They're being produced as graphic novels. There's a show now, I think. The Hardy Boys is a show or a movie. I'm not sure which. I just saw an ad for it the other day. But you know, even Nancy Drew has been several movies for several ages at this point. So
well, even
Encyclopedia
Archie and
oh yeah. Oh gosh, yes. That was like super teamed up, but yeah, no, very true. All of that has been refreshed and redone. And that's exactly right. So you know, you never know what's going to happen.
You never know. Yeah. So, I mean, I do have plans. I do want to at some point continue to write the series. I don't want to stop at like Operation Varsity Blues.
Are you going to box set these, or how far are we going with this series?
Yeah, well, it would be cool. So I've kind of like, I'm going to take a pause for right now, try my hand at something else, and try to get a second book out, a companion novel for one that's already out that I will be, which is
I didn't put it on the website because you said it wasn't a final cover. So I didn't want to put it on the website or mention it too much. But that's coming out too, right? Do you want to say the title? I don't know how much you have out.
Yeah, so it was formerly titled Bloodshot, but now it is it will be retitled. Well, it's on I do have it on Indies United, so you could probably link it.
I didn't realize you were just retitling the first one.
So I'm actually retitling the first one to, and the reason why is because I've gone through a couple covers and it kind of goes to, the reality is, I mean, I being in author groups and so forth, and everyone's like, I can't believe people judge books by their covers. I'm like, why wouldn't they? I do it all the time. Sometimes I pick up a book. Like, I mean, I don't know how many covers Lord of the Flies has gone through.
I have to say, I've never seen the cover you held up, and I've
never seen this cover until like I picked it up from school. I'm like, this is a very different type of story. It's kind of like and I'm actually looking at this cover. I'm like, this cover has, I don't really remember fire in this story. Like, I guess there was a plane crash, so I would assume there was fire, but yeah, I don't really remember specifically that, but I don't really necessarily feel like this captures the story. I think it's a little deceptive. And so anyway, back to that point, covers mean a lot. Covers, people do judge a book by its cover. People will walk by a book and say no, simply because it doesn't look like something they'd want to read. And they don't even bother to read the back. And I experienced that with here. I'm not going to drag out the other book, but this is the more recent rendition of Bloodshot.
Okay, I have not seen that particular cover. The old cover is on my website still.
Yeah, the old cover, it's like a house, and it's a really nice cover, but
yeah,
the thing with that is that I kind of like learned this as I was taking this. I had this, and then I had a couple copies of the other one, and people were looking at it going, and they would pick the one with, somebody decided to pick the one with a house. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why'd you pick that cover? He said, it looks spookier. I was like, oh, but the story's not spooky, you know? And so covers are important because they are the first impression that a reader is going to have of the story. So when I look at the covers that I have for, I guess you can flash Operation Varsity Blues again.
There you go.
So when you look at this cover, without giving away the whole story, but if I just look at the back again, gather information, report back to me, and do nothing illegal. With these instructions received under the cover of darkness and a list of names, Marcus and Alyssa launch an investigation into their own classmates. So I feel like the very first thing that should be written on the back should somehow point to, well, this is why the cover is what it is. But it's not going to answer the entire story. It's going to give you a taste that it's going to take place from this cover here because I'm stating the obvious now when I look at here, from this cover here, you know that there's going to be at least 2 characters in the shadows in some alleyway going towards some door or something.
Well, and it automatically conveys this mystery and this
Right.
suspense aspect.
Especially with the word operation, like
Yes.
that stamp. And that's something that I'm like, so speaking of continuing the series, I almost feel like the rest of the series, although the first 2 books aren't done this way, I feel like this could be a bridge into like books 4, 5, 6, however many do, and stamp each one with Operation something. I think that's a possibility that I could toy with. Or maybe not. Maybe it won't fit. Maybe I'll do something different. I don't know yet. But I like the way, I think it looks pretty cool.
Yes, I love it.
If you love that.
But I like all your covers, so that's what, now you're changing them on me. I don't know how I feel about that.
No, I'm not changing. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, you mean with Bloodshot?
I was just thinking of Bloodshot. Like,
okay, so Bloodshot Bloodshot is changing to A Shot at Mercy.
Yes. So you're changing the name of it even.
Yeah, I'm changing the name, the title, and the name. And the reason why is because the name doesn't really convey the story.
I understand.
And the cover doesn't really convey the story. So it's yeah. And that's the reason why. So I'm learning as I go along, I'm learning a little bit more. So, but also A Shot at Mercy could open up for like A Shot at Justice, A Shot at A Shot at, take your pick. A shot, probably not A Shot at Love. That doesn't sound right, but yeah.
Well, that it could turn out really cool though. You need, I don't know. Well, I don't want to. I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways that I can go about that, but I could create a series around that idea, and so that's kind of what I'm toying. So that's speaking of what I'm writing about right now, just to kind of like launch into that. So I am sort of planning the next book, A Shot at Justice. And this, because I've been writing Marcus and Alyssa so long, it's like I need to find a different way of writing this because it can't sound like YA. So that's part of the reason why I'm going to take a break for a moment, just to kind of flex my writing muscles and also provide another alternative for people to read. And I'll see how a second one goes. But at the very least, there'll be a pairing and not just simply single standalone. And so that's kind of what I'm going with.
That's awesome. I'm very excited. When is that one? Or when are you? Well, I'm considering, that's what I was considering when I was counting the books. That was the 4th one that I was thinking of originally is coming out, but I realize it's just a retitle of Bloodshot.
Yeah, it is a retitle of Bloodshot.
That wasn't this year. That wasn't like January, was it? I've lost all sense of time.
Yeah, so A Shot at Mercy will be re-released as Bloodshot will be re-released as A Shot of Mercy. January something, 17th, 16th, something like that.
So was Bloodshot this year, or was it last fall?
Bloodshot was 2019.
Okay, it was 2019. I was like, I'm losing track.
It was around this time in 2019, maybe a little earlier than that. But yeah, and I'm also publishing it under Indies United Publishing House and keeping everything there because I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Then it's like a one-stop place that people can go to and say, oh, there's all the books. And then we also, as authors with Indies United Publishing House, cross-promote each other. And so if you follow me on Instagram, which is Timothy R. Baldwin, you'll find me promoting works by other authors. You'll find me periodically promoting books that I've read by authors from Indies United Publishing House as well as other places, because I still don't know. I think I love reading more than I love writing, only because it's less work.
I don't write. I can only read. I won't write.
But I do love writing, but it takes me a good 6 months to write a book. And I'm always like amazed by people who can write a book in a month and a half, 3 months even. I'm just like, I don't know how you do that. Not because like I know they carve out time and they're very disciplined and whatnot, but I just don't have the mental stamina to do it. To just kind of like write that frequently.
There we go. I updated it so it has the Instagram at the bottom.
Yeah. And let's do a quick one other thing. So I want to do a book giveaway for those of you who are still here. Do we have many people still here?
No.
Do we have anybody?
People check in. We don't have a bunch. It looks like people are popping out. We've been on for about an hour now, so.
Okay, so they got tired. We stopped reading, and so
I scared them away. But
I should have. Yeah.
I can tell you something. We had a few likes here and hearts, so we had a few people, but I don't have any comments or people popping in right now, as far as I can see.
Okay.
But if you're here and you want to say something, leave a comment before we wrap up.
Or if you would like me to do a free book giveaway, so I will sign a copy of Operation Varsity Blues and send it to you, and I will give you a number to text me.
Oh, there you go.
Is that a good way of doing it, you think? Or email?
I like email personally, but that's up to you.
I'll do email. So the email's super easy. tim@timothyrbaldwin.com.
Okay.
So yeah, tim@timothyrbaldwin.com. If you would like to be entered into a chance to win a free copy of Operation Varsity Blues, my next book, please email me. I will send it out to, I have a number in my mind. And that number will be the, X person who sends it. I could say the 5th person, but I don't want to be that specific because what if only one person emails me? Hopefully that doesn't happen. But anyway, email me.
How long are you going to wait for people to email you? Because they can go back and watch this. Because it's on YouTube and Facebook. So if they're rewatching this later, when are you ending this giveaway?
I will probably
say December 31st?
December 31st? Yes.
Right? Gives you time to get the book and everything?
If you eat right, December 31st would be a great place. I'm actually going to have the books in January, but if you email me by December 31st, you will get a signed copy of Operation Varsity Blues from me.
You'll be entered to win.
You'll be entered to win. That's better. You'll be entered to win a signed copy of Operation Varsity Blues. Yeah, I don't want to be intimidated with like 100 emails saying, "Hey, I emailed you."
You can also pick up all of the books that we've talked about, including Bloodshot. It's not without the title changed. I have a few of those left in stock, I think. They are on our website. All of my inventory of yours is on our website, www.capricoastbooks.com, and I'll throw that up here in the end. I think I didn't make a closing cover. But all of that will be up, and you can check it out at our website. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. You and I have to get back on again. We'll have to do we'll start doing like a monthly drinks with authors instead of weekly, because that was a lot in the spring. But that was a good way to kill a lot of time during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a lot to do that regularly. Correct
me if I'm wrong. Are you part of the dystopian group?
Yes, no. I am.
You are, okay.
I am. I did join it. I don't write dystopian specifically, but I should try my hand at it sometime.
Are you participating in the takeover?
For the dystopian?
Yes.
No, I just don't have the I can't take over anything. I just can't do it.
Okay, fair enough.
If people are like, yeah, you can do a takeover, I'm like, cool, what would I do? And I don't know, just the idea of doing it is just, I don't know, too stressful, I think.
So if anybody wants to know, there's a group called Dystopian Inc., which you can find on Facebook, and it's a group of writers, and they are going to be doing a takeover on that group. I think it's called the 12 Days of Christmas, and on Sunday, I am hosting, like, kind of moderating a introduction to the authors that will be taking over. So we'll be doing one of these video chats. So I was just gonna say, we could talk then, but
Yeah.
another chat, you and I.
Heather asked me if I wanted to do it. I was like, no.
I understand. She asked me if I could help with the StreamYard, because Heather has done great things. She's working really hard at doing what she's doing, but she's like, I don't do the technology. Excuse me, I don't do the technology. Can you help me? I said, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that.
All right. So thank you again so much, and hopefully you'll get a lot of emails from this. The emails, again, to enter to win a copy is down at the bottom of the screen there. And share this with your friends so they can enter, and then maybe bump you up to the number that Tim's thinking of. And you can enter or something. Maybe one or you or your friends will win. So make sure to share so one of you will win. So thank you again so much, and have a wonderful evening.
Peace out.
Appreciate it. Everyone who